Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We apologize for the delay, but we had multiple problems getting everyone together this morning. Before we start, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Here.
Here.
Here. Present.
Mr. Miller?
Present.
Here. Here.
All right, we have a quorum present, so we may proceed. Welcome to our hearings this morning, from which the council will consider the confirmation of the appointment of Gerald First, Clerk of Court. This council received an official notification of the nomination of Mr. First on January the 21st, 2011. Mr. First is no stranger to this office, having served as the elected Clerk of Court since 1976. The Clerk of Courts is an Article 5 appointee, meaning that the appointment is subject to confirmation by the Council. According to the Charter, all of the Ohio Revised Code powers of and duties of the Clerk of the Court of Common Pleas relating to serving the operation of the court are to be exercised and carried out by the Clerk of Court. Under our prior form of government, the Clerk of Court was also responsible for the issuance and recording of motor vehicle and watercraft titles. These duties have now been assigned to the fiscal officer. The Clerk of Court may assume additional duties and powers as set forth by this council under ordinance. The hearing will follow and will proceed in the following manner. We will open up for public comments for those who have signed in. Public comments are limited to 2 minutes. The nominee will be then offered an opportunity to address his qualifications and motivations for seeking this position and outlook and plans for the office. Council members will then be offered an opportunity to ask questions. We'll do so in rounds, allowing each council member to ask 3 questions per round until council has answered all of its questions. Once all questions have been asked, and assuming council is ready, we will entertain a motion to recommend that council consent or not consent to the nomination. And then we will, assuming a motion to recommend or consent has been made, council will vote on the recommendation at the next regular meeting. I would remind all those present that there is no use of cell phones during these hearings or any other audible devices, so please turn off your cell phones. And with that, I do not know that we've had anyone check in for public comment.
Madam President, no one has filled out a form to speak.
Okay, so there's no one here for public comment. Then, Mr. First, we'll open the floor up for your opening statement.
Thank you. I would first open by answering a question which I've been asked a good number of times. What does a Clerk of Courts do? And to make it a simple and hopefully understandable answer, I tell them that the clerk serves as the secretary treasurer of the court he serves or she serves. Just as a secretary in a club takes the minutes, it could be a club or an organization, keeps the minutes, the clerk has to keep the minutes of the court, and that's in the form of journals and court-related documents. The clerk not only has to take them in, but preserve them. And as a treasurer of a club or organization, collects and disperses monies for the organization, the clerk takes in, refunds, and disperses money related to court activities. These could be in the form of filing fees, court costs, fines, bonds posted, statutory fees for the many services we perform. The County Clerk of Courts in Cuyahoga County serves the General Division of the Common Pleas Court, which means that major civil actions, elk and elk, you read about them and so forth, they file their actions and the criminal felony cases come into our office. We also serve the Domestic Relations Division of the Court of Common Pleas and the 8th District Court of Appeals. The Cuyahoga County Clerk serves 51 elected judges, 5 visiting judges, and 25 magistrates. By comparison, many of the Ohio clerk of courts throughout the state serve just one judge. And most of the municipal courts in Cuyahoga County have a clerk serving one judge. For example, Cleveland Heights, East Cleveland, Euclid, Lakewood, Lyndhurst, Shaker Heights, and South Euclid. One judge for one clerk. So with all the judges, the 51, plus the visiting judges and magistrates, we have a big operation. Yet it's an efficient operation. While surrounding municipal courts employ anywhere from 6 to 12 judges per deputies per judge, our legal section does the job with 3.29 people per judge. I don't know how you get 29ths of a 29ths of a person, but that's the way it works
Same
out.
way the Constitution got 3/5.
Yeah, okay. The Cuyahoga County Clerk of Courts is also responsible for the issuance of motorcraft and motor vehicle certificates of title and duties related to that. This is a county function, whereas registration, license plates, and driver's license are a state function. We operate out of a main office, which is located at 1261 Superior Avenue, and branch offices in Maple Heights, Parma, and North Olmsted. The title operation represents roughly 1/3 of our duties. Under the charter, as Ellen mentioned, the title section will be put under the fiscal officer to be appointed and confirmed by the council. There has been no appointment yet, and I've been asked to continue that operation, and I do. Somebody has to do it, so we're doing it. The question I have to answer first is, why do I want to become clerk or stay as clerk? I would say, but basically, I'm an attorney, and I practiced law for 14 years, part-time and full-time, before becoming appointed to the office. Thus, it's been an extension of my profession. I did not seek this office. It kind of sought me out. The previous clerk, and he had been in the office, not as clerk, he was in the office 43 years, the last 18 as clerk. He was planning to retire. He met with his staff, and they agreed to call me and support me if I was interested. At the time, I had a general practice of law, which brought me into the office on occasions, so I knew many of the people there. And I had previously run as a state representative countywide and been elected twice, which meant they had a person who would be electable for a countywide elected office, clerk of courts. When I was approached on this, I couldn't say yes to it. One of the reporters I talked to, they said that's unusual because usually when there's an opening before, let's say you had a heart attack and you hit the ground, there were 5 guys lined up for the appointment. He says, wait, I'll take that back. You've had your heart attack, you're going down, you haven't hit the floor yet, and there's 5 people lined up for the job. So it was a little different with me. I took my time because the practical thing was, first of all, I wasn't interested in any other county office, the treasurer, the recorder, the officer, the auditor, or commissioner. I had to ask myself this question. I was supporting a wife and 4 children with the practice of law. Why should I leave that profession, which I couldn't be voted out of, and take a elected position which I could be voted out of? So I took my time in considering it, and I met on occasion with the old clerk. His name was Emil Maskey, and talked to him about it. And I found that he was a very sincere man. He ran a good office, and he knew he wanted me. So after 8 months, I told him I would join him. And I was brought on as an administrative assistant for a little over a year, and I worked in every department learning the office. He even gave me a test after I was through. Upon his resignation, I was appointed. So I didn't come in by election. I came in by appointment, and my first election was in 1976. As I said, the clerk of courts is an extension of my profession. I've always been active in the profession, and before becoming clerk, I was an active member of the Cuyahoga County Bar Association and served as chairman of their Domestic Relations Committee. And I continue now as a member of the Cleveland Metropolitan Bar Association, and I've been a longtime member of their Unauthorized Practice of Law Committee and their Ethics and Professionalism Committee. I attend most of the meetings of both of those committees. So I'm interested in having a well-run office, one that's up to speed in service and technology and efficiency, because it's good for the courts, it's good for the general public, and it's good for my profession. I'm open to questions.
Thank you, Mr. First. I'd like to start out by asking about the Title Bureau. You indicated that 1/3 of the duties of the clerk are involved in the Title Bureau.
Yes.
What progress has been made? I understand that you haven't been able to do anything because the fiscal officer has not yet been appointed. Have you made any plans as to how to divide that office away from your current office?
Yes, we've talked to the transition people about it because there's some major issues there. One of the responses that I got, we weren't really satisfied. They said everything transfers over automatically, but I'm not sure about that. We've had telephone conferences with the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, their legal counsel, and of course the people, our transition people and myself. And they too understand that there's issues there. They wanted to get an opinion from the Attorney General. They didn't. Of course, that was Richard Cordray, who was usually pretty prompt on that, but I guess when he...
So you get that by state statute, right? The clerk is assigned that task by state statute, 4505.02, right?
Right. Well, what I'm talking about is there are issues such as the contracts that the clerk has with vendors. We do electronic titling. It's done by contract. They run between me and the car dealer and the Bureau of Motor Vehicles. We do letters of guarantee. A lot of the dealers give us letters of guarantee so that we can accept their personal checks. And they're written to me by the bank. I don't think these things automatically transfer. That's why I think that once a fiscal officer is named, there's going to have to be a period of time where we transfer these things and have these questions resolved so that there can be a smooth transition there. In the meantime, we're running as we have. There's a major issue coming up in the state, I might say, that probably I won't face because by that time I assume a fiscal officer will be named. But the Governor Kasich, is planning. He has a budgetary problem, and what his solution is generally agreed upon as being the solution he has to take is to consolidate agencies. And just as banks consolidate, then they can eliminate employees, lay off people and so forth, consolidate technology operations and so forth. What they feel he's looking at is to take the operation of registration of cars and license plates and put it under one office. Either take the title operation, put it under the deputy registrars, or have the clerks take over the registration of that's now done by the state. The clerks were asked to vote, and so they could give the governor an answer, and they voted unanimously to take it over. If that does happen, it would save the state a lot of money because they have a lot of administrative cost in running the Bureau of Motor Vehicles. Their the various offices that they have, deputy registrar's office. And but if we took it over, it means that we'd have to open up more offices because we would, there's 10 or 12 registrar's offices around the county. On the other hand, we'd consolidate it and make it clearly one-stop shopping, and also we would take in the fees that they take in now. They wouldn't go into the pockets of a registrar. Those are privately contracted out. They would go to the county revenue funds. So that's a major thing that we're facing. What we did, too, a major change we had to do, this happened over a couple of years now. The county had financial problems, and they asked us to make cutbacks. And at that time, I closed one of my branch offices. That was the Golden Gate branch office. Branch offices are not required by law. They're a service. We found that by doing that, we would save a couple $100,000 for the county. Just, the rent itself is expensive, and the security and other things that go with it. I didn't have to lay off staff because we were doing a buyout at the time. The county was doing a buyout. And as those people left, I replaced them with people from that branch. That branch was our lowest volume, and it was the contract, the rental contract was up. The landlord wanted to triple the rent, and I thought this is the time to close it down. So we did. That's a thing to look at in the future. Having that reopen that office.
Well, I just like to point out, when you create this new title bureau
Yes.
under the fiscal officer, actually
Yes.
when the executive, that is a new department that has to be created by the council. So you're going to have to come with an ordinance, because this is taking this job that belonged to the clerk and creating a whole new department, and that's exclusively within the jurisdiction of the council. So I would suggest then that, you have, I know Mr. Gallagher, I think, is on public safety or judicial affairs. So you need to have, when you start these dealings with the fiscal officer, you need to notify the council and have one of our people on the committee, let's assume it'll be like a transition committee, because this is going to be a decision that we have to make and we have to approve in terms of setting up the department. And just one other question I have.
I think that's a good idea. We want to do it carefully. It's a major operation. It's not a simple operation, and we have to do it carefully. And I plan to work with the council and the executive and his staff to try to make it smooth and workable.
Okay, and I assume that Mr. Miller also be involved in terms of the budget and how much the additional cost or savings on it. And then just one other question. Are there any other non-judicial functions that you have other than the Title Bureau? Because whatever functions that you have, you continue with your judicial functions, and then those other non-judicial functions are transferred to the fiscal officer. And I was just curious, are there any other things that you consider non-judicial that would be transferred to the fiscal officer so that we would know?
We looked at it, and I don't think we would.
I kind of thought about it too. I couldn't think of anything other than the Title Bureau.
I think what we have now would be considered court-related.
Okay. All right. Questions? Mr. Gallagher.
Ms. First, welcome. In your opening, you were talking about efficiency, and obviously I come from the Court of Appeals, and
Michael.
I stopped over. The problem that they're having right now is they have 5 people over there. They don't have a chief. You have a chief open, and that's been open since Al passed away.
Yes.
And the thought from the court is that, or at least the thought from many of the people in the court, is that the personnel could be cut down as long as they had a chief over there, and that they've asked, and they've been told that it was a budgetary problem. Since Al's been passed away, I would assume that his position's still there and his money's still there, yet you have, instead of 3 people over there, which would be fine, or 4, you have 5 with no chief, no leader. How is that efficient?
Well, we don't have a chief there because that's a posted position, and we've done no job postings. We have an acting chief, and that's Michelle Burr. We rotate people over there, so that's part of our cross training that we do in the office, and to make sure that if there's ever a person out or we're down people, we have somebody that can step in there. We've had this overall situation because of the financial condition of the county. The people have had no raises since 2007. There's been no money for that, and we've done no promotions because with the promotion comes a raise. If you're promoted to an office manager or something like that, you get a raise. But we haven't been able to post jobs and give those raises. So, but we have people working out of position as acting personnel in whatever department they're assigned to. So we keep going that way. We've let the transition people know this. We always kept our records up to snuff. We would do lateral transfers. We would post jobs, and we would move people up. But as it is now, we have people who are classified working in unclassified positions and unclassified people working in classified positions. We got to keep the courts running. And, you know, the public doesn't want to hear that you haven't posted jobs and that you got to have somebody in there. So that's part of the problem we have, Mike.
But still, Al has been gone, and so his money's still there. I would assume that wouldn't be a problem. And the only reason I bring this up is because it's an issue over there, and I was over there, as you know, for many years. And I can't tell you the people that you do have working over there are, to point out, Steve is one of the best people I've ever seen.
Steve Kunzman, yes.
Which brings me to my second question that I think is a big elephant in the room. The amount that your people are being paid is really unconscionable, I think.
Yes.
I mean, and that's really your call. When this is newly set in, all this is going to go to HR, and there's going to be a readjustment as to amounts and slotting. The amount that these people are going to get is going to be, my guess is, and I think it's a good guess, is going to be substantially more. Yeah. How is that going to affect your ability to run the office, knowing that, number one, that if you get this, you're the appointed clerk, and number two, that all these years working 10, 15, 20 years and loyal, dedicated employees, and all of a sudden they're going to get a substantial bump in pay that didn't come from you. How is that going to affect your ability to run the office?
Well, I'm happy they're going to do that at last. I mean, I try to do the best I can for my employees. Whenever there's money over the years, when there was money over in the budget, I doled it out in the form of merit raises to the people. We did the commissioners put a study in on our staff. This was in 2001, done by DMG. And they went over all our positions and they upgraded them. And so that salaries went up then, but they were in a lower position then. But it has to be done again, no question about it. But what we do now is we get a budget, we tell them that what the situation is, and we try to stay within budget and do the best we can with the money we have. Yeah, you're right about that. Our starting salary is $19,582. But if you look at the records, you don't see many people, because with that, we tell the people once they pass their 4-month probationary period, they get a $600 raise, which puts them up to $20,152. So you'll see a lot of salaries there at that level. All of our promotions, Mike, are through the ranks. All of our office managers and department heads have worked their way up. They know the office. We don't hire people in off the street and pay them a big salary for a job they have no experience in. So that's the way we've run the office, and it works.
And lastly, you're saying that technology is up to date. Could you expand on since you've been clerk, what we've done with the IT and where we're at and where you envision going?
Okay, let me get my notes together. Excuse me, I got notes all over the place. I can say this, we feel we have the best case management system in the state of all the clerks. And I hear that from attorneys all the time. They practice in other counties and they like ours very well. And it's a system where we're involved with closely with the courts, and we work with them. And we have a 24/7 web access to our records. We have all of our criminal records have been imaged. Our civil records, not all of them, but that's due to the fact that we don't have enough staff to do it all. We have to work with what kind of a staff we get. And we're looking at other things. And one of the major things we're looking at is e-filing, and we've been working with the courts on that. And there's been a lot of studies, working with demos, working with law firms, and they're looking towards the summer as to at least make a major step in that direction. They have it in the federal courts now, but you have to change local rules, and it's just not something you snap your fingers and it's done, Mike.
Mr. Rogers?
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. First, thank you for being here this morning, and congratulations on being selected from the executive. I just had a question on the collection of court-imposed fines and fees.
Yes.
And I'm wondering what's the success rate of collections from these courts, and are there any recommendations on how, if we're not doing that well, how to improve that?
We have, I feel, a great record of collections. Some of the money is collected by probation officers, not by us. Person is on probation, the probation officer, to graduate the person, will say, I want all your costs paid, and they will see to it that it's done that way. A good deal of our money comes in through institutions, the prison, people who are incarcerated. We can go to their accounts, and all but a $10 amount is taken out of their accounts and credited to us, sent to us. We've been doing that. We got a break on that too, because for years we weren't able to do that because the court or the law prohibited taking monies from indigent people. The Supreme Court in 2005 issued a ruling that we could, and we immediately went ahead with that. We had to work with the prosecutor and the courts and the commissioners too, and that's done automatically. The bill follows the individual if he moves from one institution to another. You have prisoner has an account, and they check it out once a month, and anything that's over $10 they send and apply it to court cost. And I have a figure here that inmate collections, we started on that in July 2005, have brought in $2,206,919.56. We got it down to the cents as of the end of last year. We did have hired a collection agency too at one time, and we wanted to bring them on board. We went after them, sat down, signed a contract with it. It had to be cleared by the commissioners, okayed by the prosecutors, and they actually quit on us because they couldn't make enough progress to justify the cost of their operation. One of the big problems they encountered was they weren't allowed to use Social Security numbers. They felt that was a key to their collections. We wrote to the prosecutor to see if we could allow our collection agency to be given the Social Security numbers. The prosecutor said no. We wrote him a second time, and again he said no. So once that happened, we didn't have a collection agent.
Madam Chair, was that decision a sole decision on from the prosecutor's office, or is it based in some type of law saying that we're not able to provide those Social Security numbers?
I have somewhere in my office a copy of his opinion. If you want me to get it for you, I will. I offhand don't know what it is, but I mean, it was pretty definite. We can't, Social Security numbers cannot be used.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Miller.
Madam President, to Mr. First, also congratulations on your recommendation from the executive. And my first question is, if you could tell me what you believe are the most important accomplishments that you've made in the time that you've served in this position.
Let me get my notes in order, Dale. Thank you. And congratulations to you and all of you on your election, too. And good luck to you. Let me see. I think going way back when I first took office, I found that in our personnel, we really didn't have a good personnel system. We didn't have one we did not have one at all. We found that there were no job descriptions, no annual evaluations, no personnel policy, no job postings, no personnel department. So, we had a lot to do, and we couldn't do it overnight. Now we've got that straightened out. We have a system whereby anybody who applies in our office is taken an application, and there's a full interview, which is handled largely by our EEO officer. I've never turned away an applicant. Even now, some of them stroll into the office, even though I'm not supposed to hire directly. I have to get it through the staff of the executive. But at the initial visit with the applicant, we test their skills. We test their. We give them a showing of the office. We run security checks on them, and I meet with every one of them. I've never hired a person I haven't met, and I'm liable for their behavior, so I want to know who's going to be hired. All people have been hired entry level. There's a 4-month probationary period, and as I said, they get a little raise afterwards, and there's an extensive cross-training program. We cross-train our people as much as we can so that if we're short in a department, we can move somebody in there in a hurry. Our promotions are posted. Most of them are, not all of them, but the vast majority of them are. And it's an internal posting, and our promotions, therefore, are through the ranks. As I said before, everybody who holds a big major job in the office has worked themselves up through the ranks. So that was, let's see, where I am now. Excuse me. Well, we've installed what we feel is the best case management system of any clerk of court's office. It took a while to do it. It seemed like it would never come, but we did it right. We took our time, and we did it right. Another area, and this goes back some time, is our branch title offices. The whole idea there is bringing government to the people. They're located close to Bureau of Motor Vehicle offices so that people can have one-stop shopping. They're done in areas where it's closer to people. They have free parking. It saves them a trip downtown. Often people forget a document, an odometer statement or something like that, and they have to go home and bring it with them, or a power of attorney. This way it's close to home for them. So we've continued that operation. As a matter of fact, the first branch office, many of the clerks have branch offices, but the very first branch office in Ohio was opened in Cuyahoga County in Bedford, Ohio. And of course that makes sense. That's where the Bedford Auto Mile is. Our records are, another thing is our records are imaged. I mentioned that before. They're completely imaged, and the complete records imaged in our criminal branch. We do imaging in the civil cases, but not all of the documents are imaged because we don't have the staff to do it. We have on-the-spot record certification. For example, there are some offices that if you need a copy of your record, they'll take your order and say, we'll mail it out to you. We do it on the spot, and that's important because, let's say an example is somebody comes downtown to apply for Social Security. They'll go to the Federal Building on 9th Street and 9th and Lakeside, and in their interview, it comes out that there was a divorce, which affects the benefits. And the federal government, the people there, want a proof of the divorce. And so they have to come to our office and get a certified copy of their divorce papers. We do that on the spot. They can go back to the Federal Building and all their business cleared up. Otherwise, if we mail it to them, they have to make another trip downtown. We do the inmate cost collection, which I mentioned to you. That's been a huge success for us. We have going right now a criminal justice reform initiative. It started as a pilot project between the city of Lakewood and Shaker Heights. And the idea is to have a lot of the work done in the suburbs and assign counsel and so forth, and eventually save trips downtown and jail space reduction. We've also reduced the cost of our postage. We used to always send out notices of journal entries, hearings, and service, and things like that by postcard to attorneys. Of course, whatever the postcard cost was a cost to the county. What's it, 27 cents? I'm not sure exactly. But anyway, we do it now by email. And so that I try to get a figure on how much of a cost saving that was, and the best I could get is about somewhere between $200,000 and $300,000. Now, there are some attorneys who don't do email. So what do we do with them? We ask them to come to us and let us know, and we'll continue to send out the postcard to them. And you also have pro se people too, people that file their own cases. You can't. We have to send them cards too. But that's a thing that we put in. And as I said, we have things under consideration right now. We're working on e-filing. We're working with domestic relations, their divisions, on an interesting concept. It would involve putting an automatic restraining order in a divorce action upon the filing of the action. And the parties would be restrained from committing a predetermined list of acts. And that would eliminate the necessity of filing and then later coming in with a motion to get a restraining order. So we're working with the courts on that. And there's another project that we started January 18th of this year, and that's called the Early Bond Release Pilot Project, where the courts, in felony cases, the bonds have to be set by a judge. It's not like municipal court where a clerk can set the bond and collect it. We can't do that. It has to be done by a judge. But under this project, the judge would do it, but fax the information to or email it to the suburb so that the person could be released there and avoid the necessity of bringing him downtown and all that goes with that. I saw you shaking your head. What?
I have a question that deals with that, but go
ahead. Dale, we're open to anything, Dale. And, I read through, I'm deeply involved with the Clerks Association. We meet monthly. It shows you how government's gone. Our association would meet 2 or 3 times a year. Now we meet monthly, and now the monthly meetings have gone to 2 days, sometimes 3 days, because there's so many different issues and things that we have to keep our fingers on. But it's a great experience because we help each other. We just recently, even this week, helped 2 clerks in other counties. In Summit County, we found that the clerk was inquiring because they do no collection on prisoners, and he didn't know how to get started. So I told my criminal department head, Mark Lime, I said, Mark, give him a call, see what we can do for him. So we've talked to him, we sent him our papers, we invited him up here to look at our operation. A second clerk, a new clerk in Medina County, came in, and he wants to know how to do security checks on applicants. So I have my EEO officer call him and send him the forms that we use. We have to get a notarized authorization from the applicant before we run security checks on him. On the other hand, the association has helped me. A clerk from a small county, Auglaize County, that's Wapakoneta, Ohio. Anyway, I was talking to her, and she introduced me to an idea they had in their county, and that was they got the judges of the Domestic Relations Court to put on an order that if there's a post-decree filing in a divorce action, that the clerk can refuse to accept the pleadings unless all the outstanding costs are current. I said, could you send me a copy of that order? She did. We took it to our judges. They put the order on, and we're doing it now, and it works. So we're always open to ideas. Some ideas don't always work. I read about one in one of the court journals in New York where they had people who had drug offenses, and they wanted to cut down on the incarceration and step up the treatment that they would have on the outside as a condition to their completing their sentence. I guess it was involved and long, the treatment program, that rehabilitation program. So they found that it didn't work because the prisoners would rather serve their time in jail, and because they thought that was easier to do than to go through the rehab program. So some of these programs, you have to really, we do pilots and things like that, but we're always open to ideas. And if you have any, bring them to us.
Madam President, I'd be happy to yield to your follow-up question, and then I have a couple others.
I have a question about the bond situation. In my former life as a municipal court judge, we had Saturday court, and bonds would be set on these felony cases, and we had people that ended up sitting in jail until Monday because you didn't have a clerk to handle the paperwork. And I know that was corrected, but what kind of liaison do you have with these municipal courts? Because these were people's lives that people ended up spending, like, and it cost the city money too, in the county for keeping them in jail over the weekend. And it took us, I don't know, a month or something to get that straightened out. What kind of liaison do you have with the courts so that we don't have glitches like that?
Well, first of all, we open up on the weekends so that people can be released on bond. We have to depend.
Because you had to have a clerk because there was several weekends. There was nobody there on the weekend that people had to sit.
We have to work actually more with the sheriff because he has to, and we do that. We coordinate with him to be sure that he's there, because if you have a bond and nobody's there from the sheriff's office, you're still going to sit in jail. Yeah, we're sensitive to that. So.
And one of the questions, what was your salary by statute, and what is that going to be the same salary as set by the executive? We asked this of other applicants.
Well, my statutory salary is 75. I don't know the exact number. It's 75 or 70. Yeah. Plus, I get a supplement because I'm clerk of the Court of Appeals.
Do you get that from the state or from the county?
That's from the state.
Okay.
And that's about $9,000 a year. I think it comes to 85, something in that area, thousand total. You get nothing extra for the title bureau. That's an interesting situation. They should have given us money for that and not the Court of Appeals, but hey, we'll take it.
So in other words, maybe the state should be giving the county some money to handle that title work? Probably. Well,
the state does. A lot of the equipment, I mean, it's a give and take type of thing. That's why we have our Clerks Association. When we have something that we have to printers or different things like that, screens, we'll ask. They have a big fund there. It's called the ATPS fund, where the fees that we transmit to Columbus are put in there. I think there's $40 million in there now, so they use that and help the clerks with some of their expenses.
And we asked the sheriff the same question about how long you intend to stay. You started in 1974, so you got PERS for 37 years, so you're just about maxed out. How long do you anticipate that you'll be staying in as clerk of court?
Well, I was asked that question by Ed too, and I said I'd like to 2 years, a couple of years. I'd like to get this thing smooth and in effect. I've got grandchildren now, 15 of them, and I'd like to enjoy them along the way somewhere. I love the work, but there's a practical time too on that. I know that when I was first in office, we had a coroner named Sam Gerber. He's probably the greatest county official we had. Sam was in office for 50 years. He loved his office and didn't get paid what he should have been paid for that job, but he did. I was elected to 4 years, and I said maybe it makes sense that I stay the last 2 years. I didn't plan on running for re-election in, 2012. So it would work both ways. It would finish that up, and it would help I'd be able to work with the transition that's we're confronted with. There's a lot of issues out there, and we've gone to all the meetings. We've attended all the meetings, and any information that's been requested of us, we've supplied it. And sometimes we're just buried in requests, but we do the best we can. Sometimes it's the same thing, but in a different format, or adding a feature to it. So there we are.
All right, Mr. Miller.
Madam President, to Mr. First, one of the big ideas coming out of the new government concept is that we can save a lot of money by merging all of these different IT systems that each of the formerly elected offices had. And my question is to what extent do you think it's actually practical to merge the IT system from the clerk of courts into a single county-wide system, or do you think they need to remain separate systems?
IT people, both in our title section and in our criminal section. For the title section, I guess that'll be answered by the fiscal officer. In our legal section, our people there are, I think I have 6 people there, and 4 in the, no, 7 and 3. One of the 7 is a records manager, but we consider him IT. It's a hard question to answer. All I can do is say that we'll go to meetings and we'll find out. If there are problems, we'll throw out the problems. And if there are things that can be worked out, we'll work them out. I can't do anything better than that, Dale.
Madam President.
Yes.
To Mr. First, in your opening presentation, you did not mention the probate courts and the juvenile courts, so I presume that they're not under your jurisdiction.
That's
And my question is to what extent there could be merging or collaboration in information technology or other aspects between the courts that you run and these other courts to save money for the county?
Well, the technology systems we have now are the Clerk, the court management system, involve the common pleas, the entire common pleas court, general division, and the domestic relations division. And of course, it's public record, and it's there for anybody to access. As far as I don't know if you're leading up to taking over the juvenile court and probate court. I've been asked that too, but I think there's a probate court. There's a statutory prohibition. I mean, the clerk there is the presiding judge of the court, probate, and in the juvenile court, it's the same way. That couldn't be done by agreement, but as far as my taking over as clerk of that operation, it would be difficult because first, I'm of a very hands-on type of boss. I stay in touch with my people. I visit my offices. I talk to the staff, and I think that I fear that doing something like that would spread me so thin that I would do an ineffective job in both courts.
Madam President, may I have a follow-up on that?
Sure.
Yes.
Madam President, to Mr. First, my thought was not so much in terms of a takeover, but more in terms of things like consolidation of back office operations to achieve some kind of economies of scale and save some money. And my question is, what you see as the prospects in that area?
I'm having a hard time, honestly, to understanding what your question is. Backdoor activities.
Madam President, to Mr. First, I'm talking about again things like using the same IT system or doing procurement of needed supplies and services as a single operation for all of the courts instead of doing them separately, things of that nature.
I'm trying to get a handle on your question. There are different courts. They have different functions. Where we are involved with the court, we work with them on IT problems and so forth. Juvenile court is a whole different type of operation. We're willing to work on purchasing and things like that, and anything that can be worked out. But I'd have to know specifically, what you would want. The IT, any of our records are available. I mean, they're public records. You just don't have to. You can look them up yourself. That's what the attorneys love. They can practice out of home. They can go to their office. They have access to them 24/7.
Mr. Gallagher.
Madam President, Mr. First, I think I'm reading Dale's question as, and I think it maybe would be ours, is because this is a whole new thing. Everything you're going to go through is a whole new thing. And our charge is to, as best as possible, start a regionalism campaign to try and see any areas where we can consolidate and save money. And it would seem to lay people such as ourselves, many of us anyhow, that to consolidate all the courts under one roof in a clerk's office would be a realistic goal. Do you see that as a possibility?
Well, I don't think it's a possibility as it relates to the probate court. There's no statutory authority for it. The statutes call for the clerk of the probate court to be the presiding judge. In juvenile court, there's some authority, but it has to be worked out by agreement with the court, the clerk, and as the statute reads, the commissioners. And there's no commissioners now, so it'd be the executive. The question you'd have is, would they want to give that up, number one? And number two, in my own personal case, I think it would be difficult for me as an administrator, because of the way I run my office, hands-on, to do that responsibility along with the one I have. It would just spread me out so thin.
Madam President, just a follow-up. I don't know. I think you could do it.
Thank you. Thanks for your confidence.
Easy for me to say. It's if we had, in a perfect world, and we had our friends in Columbus helping us out and taking care of any of the fences that we have to hurdle. And another problem that I understand, you're at the beck and call of all these judges who have these little fiefdoms all over the county, as some people call silos. And the message has to be sent that the fences are going to be taken down, and we're the ones that are going to do it, and we're going to do the best we can to do that. And I think what our concern is to have everyone under one roof in the county. If we're going to go out there and ask cities to cooperate with the county on a regional level, it seems almost ridiculous not to understand how the judicial system wouldn't do that. I understand the personalities and the personalities of our judges, and how difficult that may be, but the sooner we start with that, and I think the person that leads that charge is the clerk of courts, and especially if you're in an appointed position through the executive, it's no longer a beholden position to the courts. And as you're well aware, the courts are very concerned that your position is an appointed position, and in essence, they don't have the control over your office or the access that they would imagine to your office, which I don't think is true, and that Mr. Fitzgerald would have more control over that. And I think, quite honestly, that's a good thing, and I think it should stay. So I think your position as clerk of courts, if you were to be confirmed, is the perfect position to start this. And quite honestly, I think your predecessor would be most capable in doing that and taking that leadership role with the support of the executive and this council.
I think that goes back to that unified court system that the Supreme Court has talked about, because I know the probate judge is elected probate judge / ex officio clerk. So, to take all that over, I think would take, major changes in state legislation, all the probate courts throughout the county. But I see what they're saying about sharing of services makes sense. But
Mike, there's a statute now, even though, you brought out that it's now in a appointed position in that, but there's a statute, I'm looking for it here, that says that the clerk operates at the direction of the courts. So what they direct me to do, I have to do, notwithstanding, anything else. I might say about the juvenile court, they've had some turmoil over there too, and they needed a new clerk over there. And what I did is I said, "Look, I can get you somebody." That was my former chief deputy. He retired and he was going to spend his life hunting and fishing. After 2 years, he got tired of that. He was only in his 50s. I said, let me give him a call.
Tired of killing little innocent animals?
Bill, yeah. I hope not. I don't mind the fishing, but sometimes it bothers me about his hunting. Anyway, I talked to him and talked to the courts, and he's now their clerk.
Well,
and he's a very good man.
My thought was it really didn't necessarily need it.
We try to help, and we're open to helping. But anyway, when you get at specific things that we can do, we will do.
Well, and like I said, with cooperation from our friends in Columbus, and hopefully no other fences being put up by the judiciary in regards to the clerk's office, we're here. It's a new day. We're here because not that we're the greatest people in the world. Things happened that forced this to be here. So we're really in a position where we need to make decisions and we need leadership. And I think the electorate is begging for people to take a stand as to the old ways and to move into the new ways. And like I say, I'm looking to Mr. Fitzgerald's appointees to be those people that are going to start looking at the new ways and moving this county forward. And that's all I meant by that. It's a long process, I understand, but I just,
Mr. Greenspan?
Madam President, to Mr. First, we've never met before. It's nice to see you here today, and congratulations on your recommendation by the executive. I have a couple questions for you. I'm looking at the county budget, and more specifically, I'm looking at the key performance measures, and these are filings that have come through your office from 2010 to 2009, and obviously this budget was compiled for all intents and purposes through November 1st. There was a 26% reduction, or there were 26% fewer filings with your office, yet your staffing levels remain the same, relatively speaking. I think you reduced by 3 or 4, and your total expenditures remain the same. It's troublesome to me from a business perspective that effectively the amount of work coming into your office has decreased, yet you have not modified your staffing or your overhead to reflect the decline in business. Can you address that point, please? Well, actually, our staff has declined from its high point of 272 to 230 right now. And we've done that principally to two things. One, technology. With the case management system, it allowed us to consolidate, for example, our cost department and cashier's department, and in other little areas. And the second thing is closing the Golden Gate branch office. That saved us staff because we were able to do a limited buyout, but replace those people from the directly or indirectly from the people that had worked in the Golden Gate office. A lot of our work is being done now in foreclosures, and that seems just to keep on going and going like that.
Are you saying so in 2009? Then in 2009, are you saying your staffing level was 270 people?
Not 2009.
Okay,
no. That was the top. Top that may have gone back to 2002 or something like that, but it's been a gradual decrease in staff.
Yeah, this period
and
I'm speaking
of. A lot of our budget is for things that we really don't do. The entire cost of maintenance of the court management system, which is used by the courts, both the General Division and the Domestic Relations Division and Court of Appeals, I think, is put in our budget. and that's been going up. But it shows on us, but it's really something if they need a change or a modification, we do it, and it shows up in the budget.
No, I can understand.
I'm
how.
trying to find those. I got so many papers in front of me that
I understand.
that I feel like to give you.
I can understand how maintenance costs on software and hardware can rise and skew efforts. However, if I break it out more specifically and look at your staffing numbers related to your staff salary dollars compared to the workload, there's still that disparagement. There's still a downward trend in work and a flat line. Actually less than the percentage is nowhere relational to the decrease in work. My concern is for running this county as a business. If there's decline in business, there cannot be a sustained level of employment within the county. It doesn't make fiscal sense. So obviously you've not been able to address it sufficiently to relate to the decline in workload to the county. My other statement, and you've been in office for over 30 years,
Yes.
and you've stated before this committee that it is your expectation to remain in office for only another 24 months. What is it that you have not been able to do in 30 years, based on the financial constraints of the county and the economy where it is, that you feel you will be able to do in the next 24 months?
Well, those programs that I told you that we're told the group, e-filing and the domestic relations project, they pop up all the time, and we're working on them. We'll continue to work on them too. So we're not going to stop doing that. I'm proud of the office and want to see it take advantage of any improvements that we can make in it. I'm sorry I couldn't give you a better answer. I'm sure I want you to know I watch the budget every pay period. We're under being what we're allocated right now, and I go through it carefully and question our payroll. Why is this and why is that? I try to stay in budget. Our people are now doing furloughs too, and that's a difficult thing because, as I said, their salaries are low. They haven't had raises, and on top of that, they have to do furloughs. I have a little article from the Plain Dealer that says that the poverty level, and I forgot if it's a family or what, it was $21,000. We're less than that when you take off the furloughs. So our people are busy all the time. We can be busy, too, with things like imaging and that, which don't show up on a caseload. We expanded our imaging department. The caseload, that doesn't reflect the caseload, but it's people on the staff.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Mr. Jones.
Madam President and Mr. First,
yes.
Again, congratulations.
Thank you
for being here today. My question revolves around what has been submitted to us as great ideas for a great county. The Justice Services has made a recommendation that relates to the Clerk of Courts. And of these 4 or 5 recommendations, the one I'm looking at says, create a regional approach to research, evaluation, and crime data analysis. Can you comment on that just a little?
Yeah. Honestly, I don't know what they're, we're worried about taking care of customers that come to the windows and want to post a bond, pay court costs, and file actions and things like that. As far as, projects come up, ideas come up, and some of them we come up with. And we share it, we meet with the people involved with it. That's kind of a general question. We're open to everything, anything that would be progressive, and we've always been that way. Just that a lot of, I have maybe 6 or 7 stacks of paper on my desk. Sometimes a project bogs down, so you work on another one. just keep it going. But you have to keep in contact with the people involved in it. The front end has to know, or the back end has to know what the front end is doing. And so there's a lot of communications in that. And then with other agencies too, we meet and sit down and talk with ideas that they have. And we ask for help too at times.
Thank you. I thought.
I wish I could give you a better answer.
No, that's fine. I thought we were reading the same information.
I have so many things that come my way that I take work home every night and every weekend, and I sometimes come in on weekends because nobody interrupts you on a weekend. Sometimes it's just something to go through letters of guarantee to make sure they're properly written so that we can accept them or have to correct them, and so something like that. But there's so many things that are laid in front of you that it keeps you going, and that's another thing. I'm going to do that, plus the juvenile court. Mike, if I could do it, I would, Mike, but I'm a little hesitant because 57 judges, that's a lot of judges. And you got some prima donnas up there, let me tell you, that they're calling you. And it's a lot of it's trivial, but you got to meet with them, and we do that. But it can tie you up, take your time, and divide your efforts.
Mr. Germana?
Madam President, I'll just say, let me say what was on my mind. When I read this, I actually didn't see the connection that the Justice Service recommended to Clerk of Courts as to what your role would be. But I'll just briefly say what I see in front of me. This was a suggestion to regionalize the sharing of information, criminal information, across the county in an effort to reduce those knowledge gaps between police municipalities in an effort to reduce crime.
Well, okay, that may be part of the two things that I mentioned. I forget where I got them here. The program we're inaugurated on January 18th, and the program that we have going now with the outlying courts. It was originally a pilot program, and that you have to work with it for a while and see how it works. And it may be part of that program too. So put a twist on it here and there.
Do you have it mentions a CRIS program, CRIS?
CRIS, yeah. The Regional Information System. Well, that's not mine. In fact, what we would do is send them copies, notice of expungements, it's called sealing of the record now, and they refuse to take them. I mean, we send them by certified mail. They just wouldn't accept them. But we keep sending them because, hey, we can't ever be accused of not giving them the information. That's about the extent of it with Chris.
Thank you.
Mr. Germana?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. To the clerk, let me just say that I come from business, customer service, on the private side, and being in the insurance business, the title bureau is very closely related, and I can tell you, my experience in Parma, being a Parma agent, the title bureau out in Parma has been very efficient. When you hear about complaints of customer service, all these other departments, water, sewer, whatever it is, we had always excellent customer service and very little complaints about the title division. My experience with the Parma Municipal Court, being the court of 8 cities, is that not all municipal courts are equal. And some municipal courts, pay for themselves. Other municipal courts need to be subsidized by the host city. So to get my question, in the packet, I saw that the state law sets what the fees are going to be for clerks of court in counties, and it says that you can't change those fees. You can't charge more. So it's one fee fits all, regardless of courts. And with your collaboration and cooperation through the Clerks Association, I'm just wondering, as far as these fees, is it fair that all counties, whether they're big or small, have to charge the same fees? And in relation to the smaller counties, is it possible that the clerk of courts in smaller counties are a funding source for the county, where in Cuyahoga County, it costs us money?
The fees, well, first of all, there's two things you got to consider. One, there's the filing fee, and there's the actual cost fee. The cost fees are set by the state legislature, and they're uniform throughout the state. The security deposits are determined locally by rule of court by the judges. So, and people get that mixed up. So they'll say that, gee, I went down to Hamilton County and I had to pay $400 to file a case. You only charge $150. The costs are the same. It's just that they take in more money, and another county may charge less than us, but it's there to secure the payment of the costs that are existing. That's really, a call by the legislature, not to pass the buck, but they eventually have to make that decision on what the fees. They haven't been changed, incidentally, since 1993. So you might look for an increase in those things coming along too. What we do is try to make a filing fee that gives us enough money to cover the cost, but at the same time not too high to make it filing a lawsuit a prohibition if it gets out of hand. I mean, you're denying people access to the court. Of course, you can file a poverty affidavit. People can do that, but they have to generally be in poverty. Thanks for your comment on the Parma office. That's one reason we may locally take over the issuance of licenses, is the better service from the clerks. Part is that they're elected, and I'm no longer elected, but I am. I'm elected by you and elected by the executive, so I'm in a sense that if I do a bad job at Parma or anywhere else, they'll get back to you and you'll get back to me. I might say about the Parma office, I was answering a question, and I think the sheriff brought this out, that he came to me and he said, I can't do my concealed weapon operation downtown. And he says, I want to maintain it because the people will have no place to go in this county. We're losing fees and we're not serving the people. He says, can you help me with that? He said, I'm thinking of your branches. So we looked at all the branches, and we found out that we had space in our Parma branch. And this has been, it just didn't happen overnight. We had to work 5 or 6 months on it, do all the wiring, do all the work that was involved in it. But they're now in that office and operating. So we're doing titles, and the sheriff is doing concealed weapons there. We had enough space. The other offices didn't have. I offered him our downtown office, but I think he'd like to have us reopen Golden Gate and put one of his outlets there. But I says, hey, we got to look at that more carefully.
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
To the clerk, Jerry, what I was trying to get at, as Mr. Gallagher says, he's got more new friends down in the state, and I'm just wondering if this one fee fits all counties, if the larger counties need more fees, is this something where we could have a multi-tiered depending on cases in county, or is it pretty equal, the costs throughout a small county or a big county?
I think they probably look at it this way, Chuck. You know, the costs are the same because the sentences are the same. You commit a crime, you get the same sentence in Carroll County that you get in Cuyahoga County. And I think that's the way they look at it. Actually, a number of the smaller counties were really hurting. The legislature increased the title fee, and that was 93 too, 17 years before they acted on that. We always have to fight with the car dealers. They oppose us. They're well-financed. I'll give you if you're ever buying a car, and this is, you're all excited, you're getting that new car, you're happy, and they say, here's the papers you sign. Read those papers carefully. There's a line there that says documentary fee. And that's been increased from $50 to $100 to $200. And you ask the guy, what do you mean by documentary? Well, we get you the title. Well, the title's $15. What happens to the other $185? Well, it goes into their pocket. That's what it is. So, anyway.
I could just point, I know the municipal court, I think the county police court, they also tacked on technology fees. Did you do that?
No.
In the municipal court, we had additional costs.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Yeah, so that's an additional cost that they collect.
Right, there's a $10 fee. And that's on all cases that are filed, and some motions, too. So and that goes into a separate fund. Right. The clerk collects it, but the court controls it. And some of the clerks would like to get control of it, but I don't think the courts are going to let them do it. The courts, though, when the county was hurting for money, the commissioners came to them and said, look, we're scrounging around for any money you have. You've got a big surplus in the fund. Can you give some of it to the county? And they did. Our title operation was hurting where the county subsidized it. We couldn't cover our cost. And with the new fee increase now, it's the other way around. So I told the commissioners, they're not here now, but I'll tell you and tell the executive staff that if we have money in that fund that's over and you need it, we'd be glad to help you out because you helped us when we were hurting. You kept us in operation.
Madam Chair, is one other area.
Sure.
You talked about the e-filing and the technology. I know from my business as far as the frontline people that do customer service and from the insurance companies' point of view, technology has been able to have the performance per employee go up tremendously, okay, because it's easier to do business. And so e-filing is, a great idea. I'm glad that your office embraced that. And I, like Mr. Geller, when I was looking at these salaries, I was kind of surprised when I saw so many of them in the 20s. So, we have some dedicated people out there in the clerk's office, and I think, the perception sometimes is government workers, they're high paid. Oh man, get a government job. So I commend you to keep your morale up. I think you've done an excellent job over the years, and I look forward to you finishing off your career.
A lot of my effort goes into staying with the staff, being in touch with them, and keeping, saying hello. And if I get a letter that's complimentary about them, I first write back to the person that sent it, and then I make a copy and take it to the employee and thank them for doing what they did to generate such a letter, and then put one on their personnel staff. So it's on record there. Things like that. It takes time, but we serve a lot of the general public. We still have the Title Bureau, but we realized that of all the elected officers throughout the county, when they were all elected, we see more of the general public than any other office. And in our title office, we figured out that every year there's 250,000 people. These aren't dealers, but just general public who come into the office with a title to transfer. This is a general cross-section of the people. Who owns cars? Everybody owns cars. East side, west side, poor people, rich people, everybody, every race, color, creed. So we see a genuine cross-section, and I want the people there to give good service. And they've done studies comparing the clerk's operation with titles with the state on the registration, and the clerks have always outshined them. So part of that is just the way you run, keeping your staff morale up. And they've been good people. I mean, I talk to them. They say they're thankful to have a job. They have benefits, and I said, "Yeah, that's great." I mean, they're not making a fortune, and so if you look at the amount of our budget that goes for salaries, it's not a big portion of it. Very small portion of it, relatively.
Yep. Madam President, thank you. Mr. First,
Sure.
I'm still in a tough time getting off this caseload issue. And I want to just continue along that line. In the budget, in 2011, it put the caseload back up to the same level in 2009 from a 25% decline in 2010. What do you envision happening in 2011 that didn't happen in 2010?
There's the guy who knows.
The county budget?
The 2010 year-to-date numbers?
I have the 2011 budget. So is what I'm being told then is that there were 166,000 new cases or new filings between November 1st and December 31st, whereas prior to that, and I'm trying to find my.
Can I make a recommendation that if because this is being recorded, the mic is not going to pick up your voice.
So as I add up all the 09 cases, it was 636,000. Through November 1st, there were 470,000, which leaves a difference of 166,000 or 26%. So is what's being said here that in the last 60 days of the year, that accounts for 26% of the total cases heard by the county or filings submitted through the clerk's office?
I'm sorry, Councilman. Again, my name is Keith Hurley. I'm Gerald First Chief Deputy, and I don't mean to interrupt. But I think what you have are not the exact numbers, and I will get you those exact numbers. I'm not sure what you're talking about, 600 or...
Just for reference, as you get that information together.
I will.
I took the budget, I added up all the filings for 09. I took the budget and I added all the filings for year-to-date 2010, and I came up with 166,000 case filings difference. So that's the basis for my comment. And then I heard the clerk say that even though there might have been a decline in filings, thank you. I'm sorry. That they're very well and no corresponding reduction in overhead. And I'm talking staff, as you would traditionally do in a business. That the additional labor that wasn't handling the filings were working on electronic filing or electronic or scanning, which leads me to another question then. Can you explain that program? Because I haven't really heard it defined fully. And if you're in a scanning program, if the caseload stays the same, then when might the filing program be completed?
We're talking about imaging. That will never be completed because what you're imaging are cases that come in. And that was just a guess on my part. The question you asked is a good question. It should be answered. I just don't have those stats in front of me. I can't conceive of the filings going down. Every time I go out in the office and I'll see a line of people and I says, hey, get Mike out there too. We need some help at the filing desk. And our people are just busy. And our title, with cross-county titling, has gone down. But that's been reflected in the number of people we have. We used to have 103. We're down to 85. Okay.
And I'm sorry.
So I want to get you an answer. It's a fair question, a good question. It should be answered. I apologize. I just don't have the stats in front of me to answer it.
Right. The reason I ask about the imaging, I understand there are ongoing imaging, programs that continue as cases come on board. And maybe I just wrongly interpreted the imaging program you were referring to was getting caught up on backlogged files that had never been imaged and putting them into an imaging system. That's why I was asking when might that program end, if it's even going on today. Maybe it's not. Maybe your imaging program is what's currently coming in.
Okay, that's what it is right now.
Just current images. The reason I bring this up is we're going to be faced here in the next 2.5 to 5 months with a reduction in general fund revenue coming in through the state. And if these numbers are accurate, we've got a 26% decline in filings. The county, unfortunately, we have to make, and County Executive Fitzgerald, through this council, will have to make some tough decisions as it relates to how we're going to deal with this $8 to $12 billion state shortfall, which we don't know what our percentage is going to be. It just has to resonate in my mind. If we've got a reduction in filings, then there must be a corresponding reduction in other costs that go along with that work that is now not being performed.
Yeah. If I got to ask a favor, if Keith gets you the information on that satisfies you, would you let the rest of the council know about it?
Absolutely, Madam President. Will this confirmation be on our docket for this Tuesday? This one will be on the 8th?
We could vote for that. Right.
Okay.
We are having a special meeting on the 15th for the executive session. So if we are not ready on the 8th, we could clearly put on the 15th, and we're still within our time frame because we got the confirmation on January 21st, so we're good to February 21st.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Jones?
Madam President, Mr. First, share with us the name of the software program or programs that you do use in your office. ProWare. It's a program out of Hamilton County. It's used extensively by the Ohio Supreme Court. We have it, and probate court is going into it. Thank you.
Is that it, Ms. Jones? And Ms. Conwell?
Madam Chair, to Gerald first. I don't think you answered the question that Councilwoman Ellen Connolly asked you. You didn't answer it completely. The salary that you get, you stated you get about $85,000, but I think her second part question was, what is Ed Fitzgerald offering you since you're now being appointed?
He's made no offer. I just, my last 2 paychecks have been the same as they were before.
So you two didn't discuss it, okay.
I know if I give my wife an allowance, I know if he does, she'll want to bump up her allowance.
I have another question.
Go ahead.
You mentioned you have job descriptions that you made job descriptions for all the positions. Do you have annual evaluations?
Yes.
Okay.
That was one of the things we had to put in, and we've done that every year. And we let the employees see the evaluations, And if they have a question on it, we have an interview with them to, maybe they see it differently and they want to challenge it or something like that. We do that.
Another question, Madam Chair. Since this is now a appointed position, you stated that you have met and hired personally all your staff. Will the Human Resource Department now take over the hiring of your staff, or do you know?
As I understand it, they're going to be involved almost to that extent. What we're supposed to do is when we have a position that's open is to call them up, and we'll describe what the duties of the position are. They will send us maybe 5 or 6 people, and we will interview those people to see if any one of them fits, or the best fit for the job, and that's how we do it. Now we've had we're going on 4 vacancies. The 2 haven't come up yet, 2 have, and we've called, and they're just not ready to send us anybody. So I'm getting a little bit concerned that after a while, you can go away with it now. It's not summertime when you have vacations. But after a while, if you don't have the people, and we're a people-oriented office, customers come in, you got to have staff there to take care of them. So we want to do it, but we got to, we just can't wait forever.
So what you're saying is going to be like a joint issue between the human resource and you actually seeing what they fit for the job.
Yeah.
If you have job descriptions posted, why would you have to do that? I mean, you said there's a certain kind of a fit. I'm not familiar with the office, so I don't.
Well, you could take a basic job that involves filing, but then you could take another job that involves data processing, and you got to have a skill that you can handle with that. If it's in our cashier's department, you're like somebody with a little auditing experience. So but they're all entry-level jobs that we hire into. So you look for a person that has presents himself well. Their work record has been good. They can come in with an application that you feel will fit the job, and some people just can't hold a job, and some of them they have maybe a criminal record or something like that. So it all depends. I take in applications, as I said, up to now from anybody who comes. I never denied a person an application. And most of those people are just walk-ins. They don't call for an appointment. We do it only we had up to now been doing it only on Mondays, because otherwise you'd be doing it all week long. So we set aside that time. I as I said, meet with the people, but my EEO officer does most of the work on that. And when there's an opening, up to now, I go through the backlog of applications and look at them and meet with her and say, who do we feel is the best choices? We may find 3 or 4 or 5 people, and then I go about calling them. Some of them may have found a job, or some of them may have changed direction. They may have wanted to go back to school or find a part-time job or work closer to home. So it's worked for us. In spite of our low salaries and that, there are people out there who are looking for jobs and have been looking for jobs. I can attest to that the economy isn't back to where it used to be. When you have people coming in, qualified people, and they've been out there for a couple of years looking for work.
I'm done.
Mr. I just want to follow up on this on the pay scale. I'm sitting here doing the math, and the highest salary you have is $84,000.
Yes.
And the lowest salary is $19,000. And I went through the numbers. You have about 40 people making in the 30s, about 13 people making in the 40s. You have 6 people making in the 50s, 2 people making in the 60s, and 1 person making the 70s. So you have something like 64, 65 people that are making salaries in excess of $20,000, and the rest of the 165 people or so are making $20,000, plus you're giving them furlough days.
That's right.
This is really low salaries here.
Our average salary from top to bottom is, if you include the people that are sent to us by the court to do the mortgage foreclosure work, is $28,000 some dollars. If you exclude them, it's $29,000 something, top to bottom.
Now, you have these people working at the Court of Appeals, and I have a big issue about it. The Court of Appeals is a state function, and I know the state has picked up some of the law clerks and some of the other people over there. But those people that work for you, for the Court of Appeals, why aren't they paid by the state? Because the state, that's a state Court of Appeals. We just happen to be the only Court of Appeals in the state that's just one county.
Yes.
But those people should be, everything in the Court of Appeals should be paid by the state. So why don't you make application to the state to say, pay up for these however many clerks you have over there?
I guess
that's what you get a part of your salary from the state because you do that state function.
Yeah. I guess they don't see it that way. That's my answer.
Well, I mean, it's worth asking them.
Yeah. Yeah, they would of course have to do that in every county. I think. I don't think.
Well, no, every other county they do. They pay. We are the only Court of Appeals in the state that pays. Cuyahoga County is the only county in the state that pays these Court of Appeals costs. Now they.
Oh, I think they do in the other counties. They're deputies of the clerk.
I think that
clerk has to do that. Don't forget, the filings have to come in. They come in into our civil division, and they work their way up to the courts.
Well, when I worked at the Court of Appeals as a law clerk, I got paid by the county. Now the Court of Appeals law clerks are paid by the state.
Where's
the state is picking up some of these, but there's still money that I think the state should be picking up on all the Court of Appeals because it's a state court. It's not a county court. It's a state court.
Well, I'm for it.
All right. And just one other comment about your regional offices. The only office, for all of us who have driver's license and don't have problems, the only place that you can go out and get your driver's license straightened out is in Parma. And there's no bus line there. And so people have to go get friends, or they drive out there illegally and get another off. So the advantage of taking some of these State Bureau of Motor Vehicles and making them more accessible is really be important. Actually, I think to me it impacts the whole county because people that don't have driver's license don't have jobs. And the only way you can go out to get your driver's license is to go out in Parma. Now, it seems to me all the empty offices on Euclid Avenue and on the bus line and on the Rapid line, the state of Ohio could find another place to put the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, but they don't. So the advantage of combining those is really a great advantage.
They used to, the state used to have one downtown. In fact, it was in the arcade. Mm-hmm. Now the closest one that the state has is on 55th, and I guess they're going to close that office.
No, but the other one to get your driver's license is out in Parma. Like if I hadn't gone with Judge Sean Gallagher, I probably would still be driving around trying to find it. But it's really hard to find. So, all right, Mr. Miller.
Madam President, to the clerk, my question is about succession planning, and of course the appointment of the next clerk would be the responsibility of the executive. But my question is whether there are people within your office that you feel could develop the capabilities to succeed you as clerk, and are you doing anything in terms of staff and personnel development to help make that possible?
Well, my chief deputy is probably a person that could do that. He's trained, and he's my alter ego, and if I'm out of town, he has to do what I do. We try to train people in as many functions as we can, but it's spread over so many different responsibilities that I could, let's say, take my criminal division chief down, bring him down. He's been with me for 27 years, excellent administrator, but he wouldn't know the budget and some of the other major things that you do. clerk in most counties comes from the ranks, and it's not as political a thing as it has been in Cuyahoga County. There's a lot of politics involved, have been up to now. There, the clerk steps out, and a lot of times they're happy to get the chief deputy or a person comparable to that to move into the office.
In the transition,
big counties, it can be a little bit more political.
in the transition process, there was some talk that the clerk should be appointed by the judges.
Yes.
And I know some of the judges feel very strongly about that because the clerk is the scrivener for the judges. And so there may be some move afoot in the amendment of the charter to have the clerk appointed by the judges. And personally, I feel there's some merit to that, but it'd
Well,
be something for the voters
wherever
to decide.
judges are appointed, whether in your municipal courts, it's done by the courts. They want their person in there because that person will make them look good or make them look bad.
Right. In the small municipal courts, the clerk is appointed by the judges, and the larger municipal courts, they're elected. They're separately
Yes.
elected, like in Cleveland.
Cleveland and I believe Rocky River, Parma. There's another one too. Berea, I think. Berea, you're right.
Yeah, I think it has to do with the population or something. There's a number that...
Somehow the number 100,000 rings it, but I'm not sure if it means 100,000 in the area or what. But
All right, are there any further questions or comments for Mr. First? Mr. Greenspan?
Yeah, Madam President, I have more of a parliamentary question. We can do one of three things here today. We can recommend to council, we can send to committee, or we can do nothing. Correct? Okay. All right. Thank you.
I assume if we were sent to committee, then it would go to the Judicial Affairs Committee. Would that be your thought?
Well, Councilmember Miller and I were just having a sidebar about that. We weren't sure if it would be at the chair's discretion if it was Human Resources or Judiciary.
You think it would be Human Resources?
I would tend to believe so.
Okay. All right. If there is no further questions or comments, Mr. First, is there anything you'd like to say in terms of wrapping up?
Yeah. In my letter to Ed Fitzgerald, you had to request you had to make an application for appointment. I mentioned that my three greatest assets are experience, proven performance, and respect for the public trust. And the respect for the public trust is important to me because it's a thing I really want for my children. I want to leave them with a legacy of public trust so that no matter where they work, even in government or private industry, they have that same respect for the people they work for. I'd like to say I look forward to working with you and the county executive and staff members. The other day, it reminds me that I was holding my grandson, 8 years old. He's the youngest of 15. And I thought to myself that when he grows up, he'll never have heard about or know about a three-commission form of government. All he'll know about is, and work with and experience, is the county charter that we have. And that charter will work well if we make it work well. That's the end of my statement.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion from the floor?
Madam President, I make a motion that this nomination be referred to the Human Resource Committee to be heard on February 9th based on some information that still needs to be provided from the applicant, from the candidate, and any further questions that council may have based on today's hearing.
Just a point of order, would it be appropriate then to continue the hearing rather than refer it to committee, to refer it to a committee of the whole for that date?
Well, I was looking for Mr. Morales to get some feedback on that.
I mean, I think that we could continue the hearing. So in other words, this is the committee of the whole, and then we could just not make a ruling today and continue it till that date. Mr. Nani, do you want to give us?
Do you know where that is today?
Yeah, I think the safest thing would be to continue the hearing. So the hearing is not adjourned. It would just be continued for that date that you're suggesting.
Well, Madam President, I only suggest that date because I know that's when Chairman Conwell or Chair Conwell is having her HR committee.
We could do it for next Thursday, which is the 10th. Yeah, it's the 10th. I don't believe we have any other confirmation hearings, so we could do it on the 10th, a week from today, 9 o'clock.
I would be amenable to that. So I can amend my motion. I don't even know if I have consensus on council, but I'll amend my motion to reconvene this confirmation hearing for the 10th at 9 a.m. Do we have any scheduling conflicts with that?
I think we have something in the afternoon.
Yep, I think we have the BOR. Is it the BOR interviews, Dave?
That's in the afternoon, though.
9 a.m. That's an all-day.
Except the Board of Revisions?
Except the Board of Revisions.
Okay, what about the 9th?
The 9th, I think there's a Human Resource Committee at 10 and at 2 Public Works. Oh, no.
What about during the work session on the 8th? We'll all be together on that day, and then we can just have Mr. First come in and answer those questions.
That would be.
We
have a rules committee from 1 till. We can cut that short if we want to do it at 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock on the 8th.
Okay, is that an agreement? All right, do we need a second for that then?
Yes.
So the motion would be to
reconvene.
To reconvene on the 8th at 3 o'clock. Is there a second?
Madam Chair, I second.
All right, moved by Mr. Greenspan and seconded by Mr. Rogers. Madam Clerk.
Madam President.
Yes.
Before we vote on this motion, which I support, I just want to bring to everyone's attention procedurally that whenever we have a committee meeting that's adjourned to another place and time as opposed to being simply adjourned, that under our rules that the news media needs to be notified and other notification procedures kick in just to make sure that we follow those.
Yeah, that's no problem. I assume that our clerk was automatically going to do that. All right, so then we'll have the notification will go out that the continuation of this hearing at 3 o'clock and the regular work session will start at 4. Everybody should bring their lunch because we'll be here a long time. All right, Madam Clerk, is there any other discussion? All right, we'll call the roll.
Ms. Conwell?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Conley?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers? Note that Ms. Simon is absent at this time. Mr. Greenspan?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Note that Mr. Brady is absent at this time. Mr. Germana?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher? Yes. And note that Mr. Schron is absent at this time.
All right, the motion carries, and there will be an advantage to this because we had Ms. Simon and Mr. Schrein and Mr. Brady were absent, so this will also give them an opportunity to pose any questions that they have. So we will see you on the 8th at 3 o'clock. So this hearing is continued until that time. If there's no other business before this committee of the whole, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Madam President.
Second? All in favor say aye. Aye. Stands adjourned. Thank you.
Yes.
You get the motion of council that I sent you for the rules.
Yes. Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
And regarding the issue that you brought to my attention,
Yes.
Got to figure out.
I did it your